Song by Daniel Nahmad, wasn't it? Thank you, Daniel, for being with us this morning. He's a beautiful, wonderful light in the unity movement and New Thought movement in general, just known around through many churches. So it's great we can have him as part of our service. As we talk today about the two powers that we have, love and wisdom. It's two of those 12 powers represented by the 12 disciples in the New Testament. Charles Fillmore believed that each of the disciples represented a power that is inside of us, all of us, and that through understanding the power, we can activate it and allow it to flow in a greater way through us. And of course, as Daniel was singing in the song, he was talking about love. And as we witnessed with Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., they were expressing a love that is uncommon, really. An uncommon love, but one that we all have access to. A love that is available to us. Why? Because as Scripture says, Spirit is love. God is love. And you and I are created in the image and after the likeness of God, which means that you and I are created in the image and likeness of love. If that's true, why do people do things that are unkind? Why do people do things that are mean? Why do people do things that are hateful? Well, from a metaphysical perspective, we believe it's because they have forgotten about who they are. They have frustrated their divinity. They've frustrated the reality of who they are. And we all do that to some degree, actually, if we're honest with ourselves. We all frustrate and block the nature of who we are at times. And that's why we have gatherings like this, to remind ourselves of who we are, to discover and express more of our divinity, So love is our true nature. We're created in the image and likeness of love. And one of the things that prevents us from loving is attitudes and behaviors that block that love. Habit patterns that block that love. We're all familiar with 1 Corinthians, right? Chapter 13, 1 Corinthians. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not arrogant. Love is not jealous. Love is not irritable. Love does not insist on its own way. We've been to weddings, perhaps, and heard it read, or we've heard it, in movies and other places. And we think, oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Isn't that lovely? And does it stick? How seriously do we take those words? As one author, Charles Roth, he was a Unity minister. In fact, he was an associate minister at the Unity Center of New York City many, many, many years ago. And he wrote that oftentimes we can find ourselves thinking that being loving is only when we feel like being loving. That being loving is about being kind once in a while when we feel like being kind. We do something nice, holding the door open or helping someone out because, we felt like doing it. And so it was an act of love. It was an expression of love. And St. Paul challenges us in a bigger way than that. He says love is not irritable. Love is not impatient. Love is not boastful and arrogant and so on. There was no fine print underneath that verse that says, well, in case people deserve it. In case you're justified in your behavior. Like, a person who's in line maybe for the bus or the subway or in a grocery store. And they're in a hurry. They've got an appointment to go to. They're running late for something, or they just want to get home to watch their favorite show or whatever. And someone in the line doesn't seem like they're ready, or they're taking longer than they should. And anybody ever been in that situation? And what happens? We might start feeling impatient. Or we might start, and then when you start feeling impatient, then your mind starts to get critical. Why aren't they ready? I mean, they're not the only one on the planet, or whatever else goes on in the mind. The criticism starts, right? And then it's like, well, I'm justified in my behavior because after all, look what they're doing. Right? Or someone's impaired, or someone's rude to us somewhere, or does something or doesn't do something, and so then we become arrogant or boastful or irritated or impatient or whatever, and the fine print, well, they deserve it. Right? Or I'm justified in it. And St. Paul is calling us and saying, wait a minute, love is patient. Love is kind. Love is generous. Love is thoughtful. Mother Teresa used to say the beginning of spiritual growth, being like Jesus the Christ, is thoughtfulness. Thoughtfulness. So if you look at those words and then you go back and go, well, if I'm irritable or impatient or any of these other things, I'm not being loving. That's not love. And so we get out of touch with our loving nature, with the true nature of who we are. And it's just a habit. Those behaviors are habit patterns. And so when we can not react, but start to learn how to respond from our inner nature and develop a new habit that's in tune with our true nature of love, then we find our life expanding. We find ourselves feeling better. We find ourselves feeling more loving. We find ourselves healthier, stronger, less aggravated. Because what happens is that person in that grocery store who is getting upset and irritable about the person being slow or whatever, now what happens? They might forget, they might get on the bus or the subway or get home and have forgotten about that incident, but those feelings are still there. They're still bothering them. And that stuff starts to build up inside of us. And it starts to block our true nature. In fact, we've been doing stuff like that our whole lives. If we're honest about it, we've been blocking stuff inside of us because we've been resisting stuff, people and situations. And so love, to get really more and more and release more of that love inside of us, which a lot of metaphysicians and spiritual people talk about the miracle working power of love. That love is like a mighty magnet. Love draws into our life all kinds of good. So we want to allow more of that love to express and flow through us. And I just want us to remember that it's not just about the times we feel loving. It's not just about once in a while we do some good thing because we feel loving. It's really about our daily habit patterns. It's about our behaviors. How are we with the people who are closest to us? How are we with our spouse, our partner, our friends, our family members, the ones that are the closest to us? Are we in tune with love? Are we listening? Do we listen? Are we patient? And yet we're all growing too, right? So we're gonna have our moments. But the main thing is, where is our intention? You can have the greatest of intentions. Like you go away from here and yes, I'm gonna be more patient, I'm going to be kinder, I'm going to be more thoughtful. And because of our tendencies and our habit patterns, we're going to fall back into that stuff. And then we just get back up and go, okay, let me learn from this experience. Let me try to be, get more in touch with what's true about me. And we keep making that choice. Even Mother Teresa, if you read her diaries that she's written, which is in a book form, you can see that she didn't always feel loving. And yet, when we think about Mother Teresa, what do we think about? We think about, wow, compassion and love. She didn't always feel loving, but she took action, and her actions matched love. And that's one of the things that I've learned in my life is, what if you don't feel compassionate? What if you don't feel particularly loving? What if you don't feel like being kind? What if you feel annoyed? What if you feel resistant? Well, I think it's important that we acknowledge it's there and then relax. Relax. Take a deep breath and let yourself relax. And when you're able to relax around that annoyance, when you're able to relax around that irritation or whatever that immediate reaction is, what happens? Your true nature of love can begin to surface, because we are made in the image and likeness of love. So when we're free of the irritation, the impatience, the annoyance, which are just learned reactions, then our true nature of love can come forth. And so one of the other things is something that Shakespeare said, assume a virtue if you have it not. Which is, instead of saying, I'm just an impatient person, I just get impatient. That can be an excuse, can it? That can be an excuse. Well, what do you expect? I'm just human. No, you're not. No, I'm not. We're spiritual beings created in the image and likeness of God. Do we want to be in tune with this joy, this love that gives us joy? Do we want to be in tune with this magnetic power that draws good to us? Do we want to be in tune with this activity of love that strengthens our body and helps to heal us? Then we can align our thoughts, our words, and our behavior with loving actions, which means not seeing myself as impatient, which means not giving myself the excuse that I just get irritable or I just can't listen. I'm not a listener. That's not true. Those are just habits, and we can establish more loving habits. And, it can really transform our lives. One of the greatest tools I ever learned years ago was from Stephen Covey about seeking first to understand and then to be understood. And when people feel understood, they open their hearts to you, right? They heal from your listening and from your presence. And we learn a lot too when we listen. But that's a habit, isn't it? I love the story of the man who went to a counselor and said, I'm so upset. I don't love my wife anymore. What should I do? And the counselor said, well, you need to love her. What? I just told you I don't love my wife anymore. Well, that's the very reason why you need to love her. And the man got the message that love is more than just a feeling. Love is action. Love is behavior, right? Take the action. Do the things that are loving. Do the things that, there's a whole philosophy on counseling and love and relationships called imago therapy, where they try to get the couples to remember, what was it like when you were dating? What were the things you were doing for each other when you were dating? Start to do some of those things again for your loved one and reignite that feeling of love. Love is action, right? And some of you heard me tell the story of the man driving the car and his wife was in the passenger seat, and she was sitting over in the passenger seat. He was driving, and she said to him, they were going somewhere. She said, oh, I remember, when we were dating earlier in our life, it was so romantic. I used to sit right next to you, and it was so sweet when we were driving places. And he looked over and said, well, I didn't move. Somehow we start to drift away and we leave those loving behaviors. Sometimes the loving behavior is to win the person over. Everybody is give flowers and candy and going out to eat, and you're so attentive and listening and understanding and doing all these loving things. And then once they're caught, once the deal is sealed and there's a sort of obligation or whatever it is, sometimes the kindness starts to go out the door, right? What happened to the the attentiveness? What happened to the thoughtfulness? What happened to the love that is there? Now, I understand that you can be really in love so much. In fact, I was at a chiropractor recently, and he was talking about how, yes, we are now we are lovingly very vocal with each other, uncensored vocalness, or however we put that. You can have such a loving relationship that you can say something in a certain tone, and you still love each other, right? You can overlook it. But again, what I'm talking about is charity starting at home, right? And having our thoughts, our words, our behaviors become more loving. It's not just about, I'm a spiritual being, I'm love and feeling love in meditation and doing it once in a while. It's starting to align our whole being with love. How many of you are excited about letting more of your love light shine by developing some more of these habits, that you are more patient, that you are kinder, you are more thoughtful? How many of you are excited about developing more of that in your life? Raise your hand, please. Yes, it's a wonderful thing. We begin to embody more of that love in our life, and we activate that power of love. In fact, one way to activate it is through stillness and quiet and recognizing that love activity inside of us and affirming love. I am created in the image of love. I feel love expressing through me. I am in the image of love. I feel love expressing through me. Want to say that with me together? I am in the image of love. I feel love expressing through me. Let's say it again with a little more energy. All right, together. I am in the image of love. I feel love expressing through me. And I believe that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Gandhi, they had such a development of their spiritual self-mastery in that area that they were committed to it. They were committed. Their intention was to be able to love no matter what. To love because love is their nature as a spiritual being. Because it was not their personal love, it was a love flowing through them. So when they were abused, they were able to tune into a love that had nothing to do with their personality. They weren't taking it personally in that level, I think. That they were able to draw on that impersonal love of God that could acknowledge the goodness within other people, even if those people were out of touch with it. That's what we're talking about, isn't it? We're created in the image of love. It's our true spiritual nature. And Gandhi and Dr. King knew that about all people so that they could stand up and call out something more in others. And they didn't just react out of anger. And that's what we're talking about when we're getting down to the nitty-gritty of, instead of reacting and then making excuses for it. Well, they deserve that. I mean, after all, look at all the time she's taking in line. Of course I'm upset. Doesn't mean we don't change anything, but we do it from a place of love. We get still, we get calm, and then we take the action that we need to take to make things better, perhaps. Maybe later on she calls up the manager and says, look, you need more people at the cash register. It's ridiculous how long we have to wait in the lines. Maybe you take some action like that, but you do it from a centered place, from a guided place. You do it from a sense of self-mastery. And I believe that's what Dr. King, that's what Gandhi were about. They were both very spiritually centered individuals who drew on that inner love. I remember not long after 9/11 getting on a bus. I was living in New Jersey, and I was taking a bus. And it was early in the morning, and it was where many of us were paranoid about, the terrorists and all this stuff. There were people with machine guns in the subway, And there was, orange alert, red alert. I don't even remember all the colors. You remember that time? There's different alert all the time going on. And I got on the bus and this guy was on his cell phone. It was very early in the morning. And I saw the sign up in the front of the bus that said no cell phones. And I thought maybe that cell phone interferes with the signal from control tower or something. I didn't know. And I said to the guy in front of me, I said, "Excuse me, sir, that the sign up in the front of the bus says no cell phones." And he said a expletive deletive word. And then he said, "Somebody's about to get slapped." So I took a deep breath and I sat back in my chair and I started to say the prayer for protection. Did I mention the guy was about 6'2"? And I said the prayer for the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us. And then at one point I was thinking which side, when I get off the bus, maybe I should put my briefcase on this side so in case he tries to attack me when I'm getting off the bus. So then I thought, okay, wait a minute. Let's start to send him love. I started to say, divine love flowing through me blesses you. Now, was my humanness feeling that at the moment? No, probably not. But I began to affirm it, There was probably some anxiety there or something. Divine love is flowing through me. And divine love flowing through me blesses you. And I just kept saying that. Impersonal love, that's a part of us. That's our true nature, flowing through me. And right as we started to pull up into Port Authority, this guy looked up over his seat, looked me right in the eye, and he said, "I apologize. I overreacted." Wow, the power and activity of love flowing through us that we have the ability to let express through us and the transforming power of it. So love is a power that we have and also is wisdom. And the two go hand to hand. Love is represented by the disciple James, the son of Zebedee. Well, his brother, John, is also the son of Zebedee. He represents wisdom. Well, actually, I just reversed it. Sorry. I was going to I was going to cover wisdom first, so my mind's still there. John, the son of Zebedee, represents love. James, his brother, the son of Zebedee, represents wisdom. Wisdom. And it's interesting that they're brothers because love and wisdom work together, right? You need the balance. How many of you have ever let your emotions lead you and later on you're like, oh gosh. Yeah, I see some heads going, yep. Here's the good news though. We can go back to wisdom and talk about even there's no wrong decisions. Because we can learn and grow from every decision, right? The universe can use every step we take, use it, we can learn from it. Spirit can use it to correct it, to move us in the direction we need to go, no matter what the decision is. So there's no wrong decision. However, some decisions might save us some time. We may not need to go certain directions. And that's where learning to listen to our inner wisdom faculty can possibly be a shortcut and save us some grief, and we all have access to that inner wisdom. I remember a friend of mine who we were at a retreat center and we worked together at this retreat center and so on. There was a guy she just, I guess, was head over heels with. And she was talking to people, asking her friends, do you think that he and I should move in together? And I was one of her many she consulted. And I just tried to listen. And I think everybody was saying, you better think about that. They didn't think it was a good idea, let's put it that way. But she wanted what she wanted. How many people you've known have done things they wanted what they wanted and maybe didn't tune into their gut feeling that was saying no, 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 no. How many of you have had a gut feeling, you were considering an option and it just did not feel right? It kept saying no, 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 no. But we did it anyway, for whatever reason it was. You know, this can be in so many departments of life. How many of you have bought something because they said, you got a discount until 24 hours tomorrow, and then it's going to end, and you end up putting your credit card, and later on you're like, why did I do that? You know, it's learning to use that wisdom faculty in balance with maybe the love faculty, you know, where the love or our feeling nature wants something, and our wisdom faculty says, maybe you should think about this more. Something in you says, hold up, hold up. And I think that it's important that we take time on a daily basis to be alone somehow, to have some solitude for ourselves, to get in touch with our thoughts, to get in touch with our feelings, so that we're in tune with what is our inner wisdom for a situation. I can't tell you the number of people I've met who their heart said no, and they did it anyway. I remember a lady telling me, yeah, I knew when I was walking down the aisle that I was making the wrong choice. But what courage to, you know, at that point, I don't know what I would do either. At that point, but you know she knew before that point, right? She knew before that point, or he knew before that point. It speaks to us. Our wisdom speaks to us. But are we in tune with it? Are we listening? In our culture, and many cultures, we associate knowledge with wisdom. You know, degrees. People have degree, PhD, MD, MA, et cetera, et cetera. And that's knowledge, and that's great. Statistics, facts, analytics. This is knowledge. Books you read, it's knowledge. Things you know about, it's knowledge, right? Knowledge is not necessarily wisdom. Wisdom is an intelligence inside of us that helps us to do what is the right thing for us to do in that moment. Wisdom is what helps us to discern someone's character, for instance. Wisdom is what helps us to make decisions that are right for us and everybody concerned. Wisdom is something that we learn from experience. Wisdom, part of the wisdom faculty is good judgment, making good decisions, having good judgments about things. And because things aren't always what they seem, right? Things they're not always what they appear to be. Just like you look down railroad tracks, they appear to come together at a point. Well, that's not the case, is it? That's an appearance. You look at the moon shining. Well, the moon doesn't have its own light. It's the sun shining, right? That's an appearance. There are in situations, someone can look wonderful on the outside and your gut is telling you something else. It's important that we listen to our wisdom faculty. Now, here are a few ideas for developing our wisdom faculty. One is to stop, look, and listen. Stop with all the busyness and hurriness and take some time to relax and tune in to yourself. Spirit speaks through your thoughts. Spirit speaks through your feelings. Spirit speaks through your ideas. You have wonderful ideas. You have access to the wisdom of God. Take some time to stop and tune in to yourself. One nurse used to take 30 minutes every morning before she went to her job to just think about her work, think about the day, think about how she might handle things better. Let thoughts come up for her. Let things surface for her. And it helped her start her day with a renewed sense, with a strength, with an understanding to excel in her day and to live it more fully. She took some time to just be with herself. Stop, look. To really look is to look beyond the problem to the underlying presence and activity of spirit. No matter what your problem is, no matter what the challenge is, you can look through it and see and know that spirit is at work in the situation, bringing a perfect outcome, bringing a perfect resolution. And one way that we can tap into our wisdom with problems is to try to summarize the problem in 2 or 3 sentences. Try to summarize the problem in 2 or 3 sentences. And in that process of thinking about it, we gain a greater clarity of the problem, and we start to tune into creative ideas. Pay attention to the ideas that come to you as you summarize your problem in 2 or 3 sentences. That gives you such a clarity of your problem that what you thought was a problem may in fact not even be the problem. You may look at it and realize, oh, they weren't the problem, I was the problem. It wasn't that person, it was my reaction to that person. You know, we get clarity as we look at the problem. It's been said that when you define a problem, it's 50% solved. So stop, spend some time with yourself. Look, acknowledge that spirit is working in your life. And then you can apply this technique for wisdom, which is to summarize a problem in 2 or 3 sentences. And as you're thinking through that issue, be open to what creative ideas might come as a result. It doesn't have to, it's not going to be a flash out of the sky. It's not going to be a note slipped under the table. It's probably going to come right through our very thoughts, because we have access to the wisdom of God that is within us. Another idea I recently came across that I'm going to start applying in my life is one where you keep a wisdom notebook or a wisdom journal. And what it is at the top of the page, you write, at the end of the day, today I learned that. You review the day, you think about the relationships, the circumstances, and you think about what are some of the things you learned today. And you write it down. Today I learned that, and you write it down. Maybe you read something in a book that really speaks to you. You write it down. Now it becomes yours. You begin to own it. It's not just something you stored in your brain, it's something you connected with, and you write it down. Or it's a lesson from your own life that becomes yours because we write it down. I know we've all written things down and felt that. I'd like to make it a regular habit and start to collect those ideas of wisdom. One businessman, for instance, wrote down, today I learned that by making a phone call, I can get something off my mind and move the project forward. Now that may be common sense to a lot of us, but you know what? Until he wrote it down, he didn't own it. He had heard it before, he had thought it before, but when he did it and wrote it down, it became his wisdom. You know, learning general principles. Another person learned after sharing something with someone, that someone told it to someone else, and it got distorted, and it created conflict. And that person had to go and explain, look, that's not what I meant. You know, they had to work it out. So what was that person's wisdom that they wrote down? Today I learned that whatever you say to one person, imagine that you're saying it to 100 other people. Wisdom that we can develop in our own lives. Tuning in to that faculty, that power of wisdom. So we have 12 powers. One of them is the power of love. And that love is something we all have access to. It's our true nature. You are a being of love. I'm a being of love. And when we can develop new habits of how we respond to life, we allow our natural self of love to express more often. and more fully. We develop more positive habits. And so that love has a chance to shine instead of being blocked by negative reactions, habit patterns. And then we have that wisdom faculty that's inside of us that can help us make decisions, that can help us tune into what is ours to do, that can help us find solutions, that can come up with creative ideas, and we can learn, we can develop our own gospel, so to speak. You know, you have the 4 gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Well, how about developing the gospel according to Art? You know, the gospel according to Debbie. Accumulate your own wisdom and let that be something that guides you as well. So, with God, I know what to do, and I do it. With God, I know what to do, and I do it. Would you join me in knowing that? With God, I know what to do, and I do it. Create your own affirmation. Find other affirmations that activate these powers that are inside of you, ones that you connect with, that you can apply in your own life. We are powerful beings. Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., if we could interview them today, they wouldn't say, I was special. They would say, you're special. You have God inside expressing in you. You need to follow us. Learn from our example. You be a light in your world. And that's what we're all doing, as Daniel Nahmad said, to the best that we can. Let's get still. And thank you, Father, Mother God, for your presence and your activity working in and through us. Thank you for guiding us and filling us with your love, your light, your beauty. We realize that our humanness is a matter of a lot of conditioning, that our true being is love. And we also realize that we've got to start by loving ourselves, accepting ourselves. And when we fall down, we're kind and gentle with ourselves, that we can become our own best coach, encouraging and nurturing and supporting ourselves in being the person that we potentially can be. Thank you for your reminders. Thank you for your guidance and your love. And so it is. Amen.